Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville History Show. I'm Emily Rutherford-Liska, Executive Director of the Jacksonville Historical Society. We have an interesting program. Our program today features Lisa Shepard of the city's Planning and Development Department. And what we'll be talking about is the merry month of May, because May is always Historic Preservation Month, or Preservation Month, where cities around our nation recognize great historic preservation projects. And the Planning and Development Department does that for us here in the city of Jacksonville. Recently, they held an awards ceremony, and a list of just incredible projects were selected as award winners. And here to share those projects with us is the one and only Lisa Shepard of the Planning and Development Department. You work in the Historic Preservation section, or correct me if it should be more specific, and you're a preservation planner.
Yes.
And the award ceremony was really wonderful, Lisa.
Oh, thank you.
And I always love to go, here I am sort of functioning in the midst of all that's history in Jacksonville, and I never fail to be surprised and amazed by the list of projects, many of which I'm unaware of, and this year was certainly no exception. So I thought we'd start the show with some of these wonderful award winners just in the past year in Jacksonville, Florida. And I think the citizens of our area are going to be very proud of the job that clubs, organizations, and private citizens and corporations, their accomplishments in regard to historic preservation.
Absolutely.
Well, take it away.
Okay. Well, as you may know, our Preservation Awards, many years we have a memorial tribute that we do at the beginning of our ceremony, and this is just honoring individuals that have recently been deceased. And this year we had Joyce Holbrook. She was one of Springfield's preservation pioneers. She passed away on October 13th of last year. She championed the cause of historic preservation long before it was a popular concept, even at the risk of alienating some of her real estate clients. She was a founding member of SPAR in 1974 and contributed to the documentation of Springfield's history through her personal collection, which has been donated to the Springfield Heritage Education Center.
And I know Joyce was beloved in Springfield. I know she was. Now,
our next one was Melanie Cross. She worked for the city at one point in her career and was instrumental in initiating our first comprehensive historic survey of downtown Jacksonville, and was directly involved in obtaining state historic preservation grants to help fund the rehabilitation of the St. James Building as our city hall. She brought together interested citizens to form Old Arlington, Inc., an organization dedicated to the preservation of Greater Arlington. And her most significant legacy in preservation is her early vision and leadership in the preservation of the Norman Film Studios, which is of national significance and is now under rehabilitation.
So Melanie was involved in major historic preservation projects in this city, from Cohen Brothers Department Store, now City Hall, to the Norman Studios. An amazing woman and a great loss.
Definitely. And moving on into our awards, our first category is Heritage Education Publication. And this year we honored 3 projects. The first was Durkeeville Historical Center. Located northwest of downtown Jacksonville, Durkeeville is one of our early communities developed by and for African Americans. The area's rich history has been preserved and promoted by the Durkeeville Historical Society. Based on the Society's contribution to the revitalization of the area and fostering civic pride, the Jacksonville Housing Authority and Northwest Jacksonville CDC joined with them to construct and open a new museum at 1293 West 19th Street. And it opened back in August, and it houses numerous exhibits and artifacts that tell the diverse story of the Durkeeville community.
And these are some of the Durkeeville photos, and I've been to that wonderful exhibit center, and I know how proud the citizens are.
Our next category, or next award rather, was the MidCentury Modern Architecture in Northeast Florida Conference, and this happened back on March 1st of this year. The AIA Jacksonville, in cooperation with the Florida chapter of DOCOMOMO,
okay.
which is the International Group for the Documentation and Conservation of Buildings, Sites, and Neighborhoods of the Modern Movement, hosted a one-day symposium on mid-century modern architecture in the North Florida area. And this event honored Florida and Jacksonville's greatest living architects of the 50s and 60s and increased public awareness in Jacksonville's abundance of quality post-war structures and the need to preserve them.
And that got rave reviews, this event. And here you're showing one of the prime architects involved.
That's right. It had lectures, panel discussions, and a 3.5-hour bus tour that they got to tour some of the fine examples we have here. The Restore Jacksonville Conference was our third in this category. This was an educational initiative spearheaded by Riverside Avondale Preservation and Springfield Preservation Revitalization Council, or RAP and SPAR. This 3-day event included a special workshop for building professionals on Friday, a keynote address on Saturday by a nationally known preservation consultant, John Leake, and had 25 educational sessions. Sunday they actually had a window restoration workshop and some guided tours of Riverside, Springfield, and downtown. They basically covered everything from the roof to the foundation and any wood wiring and windows in between. They even had a take-home binder that has lots of information for dealing with historic structures. Moving on to the preservation project category, a visual landmark along North Main Street, the monument of the Women of the Southland, is the focal point for Confederate Park, but time and elements have taken its toll on the monument during its 93 years. In 2007, the Springfield Improvement Association and Women's Club commissioned Padrones Castone and St. Augustine sculptor Joseph Siegel to restore the monument.
That is a magnificent outdoor monument in our town, and people who want to see it, they know to get to Confederate Park near First and Main, more specifically Phelps and Main. It's something you should see if you've not. And their job of restoration was beautiful.
Truly. Our next project was kind of unusual. At first glance, it didn't really appear to fit into any of our normal categories. The lead construction teacher at A. Philip Randolph Academy of Technology was approached to build a Victorian playhouse for the Springfield Heritage Days Festival, where it became a key attraction in a parade, and it was later auctioned off. The project provided an interesting model in which traditional building skills were taught that one day will translate into real jobs. And the auction winner, whose house it was modeled after, decided to donate it to the Children's Commission, where it continues to touch the lives of those who get to play in it now.
It is. It's like my childhood dream came alive. That was a fascinating project in so many respects.
It was a lot of fun. So preservation service, we had an individual, Adam Halstead. It was only a short time after Adam moved to Springfield that he started getting involved. He served as Springfield's technical guru with websites, computers, and security systems. Those are all his specialty. And in addition to serving on many boards, including SPAR and Springfield Improvement Women's Club, Historic Springfield Community Council, he was a key member of the 2007 Springfield Heritage Days team. And he helped organize their Main Street Parade, and he remains at the heart of Springfield's Heritage Education Center's transition from a museum space to becoming a virtual museum, access through the web.
He's a wonderful guy, really moves history and preservation in our town, and particularly Springfield. Now this project, Lisa.
This was basically, over the years, we've honored a lot of Springfield Improvement Association and Women's Club projects located in the parks, the Springfield parks. And although these activities occurred in more recent years, the seeds for the involvement and commitment of the club in the revitalization of Hogan's Creek Park system were laid in the early 1990s through the efforts and leadership of two Springfield activists, Melissa Miller and Lisa Neary, who spearheaded efforts in obtaining 2 large iced tea grants, which totaled over $500,000 that went towards the beautification of the park, of Confederate Park, that is.
And iced tea is some federal government acronym of...
Right, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I managed to walk off without it, but it is a transportation grant that can be used for historic preservation purposes.
Right. Thank you.
And I believe this is going to be a subject later on in your show, but the Springfield Alley Task Force was organized 5 years ago to preserve and rehabilitate the alleys, which are a vital element of one of Jacksonville's first planned communities. And they've done a lot to educate residents and fight for the importance of the alleys in their community.
And Joanne Tredenick is here to talk about that, and along with Jennifer Newman, who will talk about a San Marco project. So we have more to come.
For architecturally compatible new construction, we have 2064 Herschel Street, or the Chelsea Lofts. And basically this is a 3-story, 20-loft condominium building that offers modern interiors paired with historically compatible street visible elevations. The design includes traditional elements such as decorative wide eave brackets, clay tile roof details, multi-light casement windows, and private balconies with cast stone balustrades. It's a traditional design that reflects the historic and charming character of the surrounding neighborhood, but accented with stylish modern interiors. Now, on the commercial rehabilitation, this is going into the project that you'll be getting into later, the South Jacksonville City Hall restoration. Designed by noted Jacksonville architect firm of Mark and Sheftal, the South Jacksonville City Hall is one of the few remaining visual reminders of the city of South Jacksonville, and the recent restoration of this building is attributed to the hard work of many individuals and agencies. And you'll hear more about that later, I guess.
An amazing undertaking.
For residential rehabilitation, we have 1454 Hubbard Street, and this is nestled on the corner of Hubbard and West 5th Streets. And this tired little house had definitely seen some better days during the last 100 years. It was a combination of charm and toughness that attracted the attention of Rob Lytle and Susan Brown. And using their extensive restoration skills, they've really done a good job of preserving, restoring all the original woodwork and trim wherever possible, reworking the original windows, and salvaging other historic materials that others were throwing away to restore the house.
Well, that was a miracle.
And the Great Save is basically a category that we have for buildings that came very close to being demolished. And our first one here at 1210 Walnut, basically time and lack of attention had really taken its toll on this Grand Victorian house. And the Municipal Code Enforcement Division concluded that demolition was the most appropriate abatement action. And our commission, our Historic Preservation Commission, reluctantly agreed to approve the demolition process. Luckily, owner Octavia Callie stepped up to successfully return the house back to its Victorian grandeur, saving a lot of its features. And a definite good before and after. And then we have 2649 College Street, and I guess there's basically a point where even the most ardent preservationists will say enough is enough. It's time to let it go, and I'm sure that many that passed by this burnout shell at 2649 College Street thought that. The new owners of the residence, the Smarter Investment Corporation, took on the challenge of doing what most would consider impossible, or at least improbable. Another great save.
Indeed it was.
And our last one,
okay, the last project
is the recreation of the Rose Arbor in Confederate Park. And when you look through some of the old postcards of Springfield's Confederate Park that depict the historic Rose Arbor, abundant with full blooms, it's not difficult to understand why members of the community wanted to recreate this magical park feature. And you can almost smell the flowers. In keeping with the historic nature of the recreated feature, antique roses, sometimes called old garden roses, were used instead of the more readily available hybrid teas and modern roses. The antique roses not only have a wonderful fragrance, but they're drought resistant and disease resistant and drought tolerant.
And that is, and see how it's already growing in.
It really is a beautiful feature.
So they can see the Women of the Confederacy statue and this Rose Arbor all in the same park. And all the projects have been fascinating. Lisa, I want to thank you so much for being with us to give this fast and wonderful review. and I want to ask the public to please stick with us for just a minute. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk in detail about 2 of these marvelous projects. So stay with us.